people from Tokyo have this subconscious belief that they're better than everybody in Japan.
Wi-Fi のことを Wi-Fi って言ってそうってね、これ絶対違うだろうと思ったんだけど。
Welcome to the Lazy Fluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese so that you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Yami.
And the topic of the day is stereotypes. But before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and or drop a review at whatever platform you're listening on. We appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, stereotypes. Rednecks, coastal elites, and Florida men. But what stereotypes does Japan have? Today we're talking about stereotypes in Japan, not stereotypes of Japanese people, which is a very important distinction. And with that out of the way, the thing that's basing around this whole episode discussion is this chart, or I guess graph, that was made based on a survey taken on Twitter of 300 Japanese Twitter users about what or how they perceived every prefecture of Japan, which they're 47, right?
そうそう。まあそのね、さっきも言ってくれたように、ツイッターの、これ名前言っていいのかな？
I don't know. I mean, sure.
でもこれさ、後でリンク貼ればいいんじゃない？
It's on Twitter. It's public on. Yeah, sure. Oh yeah, we'll put the link. We'll put the image on screen. We'll put the links in the description if you want to check out the Twitter post yourself. And you know, for reference, I'll also put up a map of Japan because that'll be very important for remembering what place we're talking about. So yeah, I gave a general overview of America. Oh, go ahead.
で、紹介していいのかな、これは。
Yeah.
キム・テスさんっていう人がまあ300人以上に聞いて、まあアンケート取って、で、まあ47都道府県日本にあるんだけど、それの偏見っていうのはprejudice かな？
Yeah, well, I think, or like in this case,
stereotype?
I think like technically, if you want to be as close as possible, yeah, it'd be prejudice is right, but in the most like technically possible of the kanji and looking at it and trying to describe it, I think like tendency or inclination towards somebody or towards something is kind of how it means. But in terms of actual usage, it's more closer to prejudice or like stereotypes. Yeah.
まあで、これはなんて言うんだろう、まあある県名とかまあ都道府県の名前を言われて何を思うかっていうのをまあアンケート取ったやつで、まあこれ47都道府県全部やると多分日が暮れちゃうからあれなんだけど、まあでも面白いやつ見てこうか。じゃあなんだろう、どれが面白いと思う？ちなみに。
Well, I think we can hit I think we should hit the biggest names first and then maybe go down to some more unusual ones.
そうだね。じゃあまず、多分みんな知ってるであろう北海道っていうのはまあ日本の一番北にある一番上にあるところね。
Yeah.
で、
where is that on the graph?
一番左端にある。
Oh, there we go. Found it. Yeah, number one. Okay.
で、北海道っていうのはまあここに、北海道があってその後本州あって、九州、まあ四国がここら辺で沖縄って感じなんだけど、まあその北海道北ってさ、まあ書いてある通り、まあ北にあって寒いんだけど、それの北海道っていう名前を聞いたときに人が何をイメージするかっていうので、パンパンパンってあるんだけど、寒さに強そう。あと距離感バグってそうっていうのがあって、面白いな。
I was trying to understand what is the intention, like baguru means to be like out of whack, right? So kyorikan is as in does this refer to kyorikan in terms of physical destination, or is it talking about the people of Hokkaido being distant? That's what I was
just in general の距離だと思う。なんでかっていうと、その北海道って一番でっかいから、北海道はでっかい道っていうなんか言葉もあるんだけど、それみたいになんかもう土地がすごい広いのね。だからさ、多分なんかの
Oh, you're talking about so like your distance for anything to anything. Okay, if you want to okay. So I mean that is true though, because it is I told you that I believe Hokkaido to be the closest thing to America in Japan. You have a lot of milk.
そうだね。
You have cheese. The roads are wide.
一番ね、アメリカに近いのかなっていうのがま 北海道かな、その大きさ的なね、概念で言うと。うんうん。
Are they considered the people of Hokkaido considered to be because obviously Hokkaido has Sapporo, which is a fairly big city, but is your impression that they're considered to be something more of like a country bumpkin, somebody like who like is primarily made of farmers or location or something like that? They don't know much about technology or anything like that? Or what do you think the impression
それは言い過
is?
ぎだけどね。They don't know about technology は言い過ぎだけど、まあ、そうね、まあ、東京から比べたら、まあ、田舎ってイメージは、まあ、どこの県もそうだけど、うん。まあ、あるんじゃない
Yeah.
かな。
Well, I mean, I was wondering just because they have like a lot of the land, but they also have like a fairly big city. And so to me, Hokkaido seems more developed than some other random places in like the middle of Japan or whatever. But okay. So then I think we should hit Tokyo because for me, Tokyo is kind of where Tokyo is like the most extreme in one regard, and you can kind of understand everything else in relation to it. So Hokkaido's on one of like very big, very sparsely populated, and lots of farmland. And Tokyo is the exact opposite of that. So if you want to read out Tokyo's, yeah.
小さいし、人口も多いっていうのが東京で、東京のイメージを言われたときに、まあ人は住むところなさそうとか、プライドと物価が高い。確かにプライドは高いよね。
I've talked about this before, but every person I met from Tokyo has a subconscious, subconscious. So I don't think that they want to say that this is the case. There's a stereotype that we'll get to for Kyoto, that Kyoto people are very prideful about Kyoto. But for me, people from Tokyo have this subconscious belief that they're better than everybody in Japan. And specifically that their dialect, which is the standard dialect of Japan, is the best dialect, and that anybody that doesn't speak that dialect is literally dumb, as in they did not receive proper education.
それあれじゃん、東京に限ったことじゃないじゃん。なんて言うんだろう。だって埼玉、群馬、千葉、神奈川だってさ、まあそこら、まあ関東らへんはさ、標準語じゃん。だから東京に限ったことじゃないんだけど。
I'm saying it all stems down from Tokyo though. As in the only reason this is a thing is because of Tokyo's position as the capital.
まあ確かにね。
And like the emperor and other stuff like that. So I'm saying they're the ones who led the charge, and therefore I feel like they're the ones who take the most pride in not being able to speak any other dialects of Japanese.
確かにね。あとここでなんかちょっと教えたい言葉があって、上京するっていう言葉があるんだけど、意味わかる？
No, what does that mean?
上京するっていうのは、上って書いて、東京の京か。で、京都の京。で、上京するって言うんだけど。
Oh, okay.
この上京するっていうのは、田舎から東京に行くことを上京するっていうのね。
To upgrade, are you like upgrading to, is that why it's like ue? Or is that because of location?
どうなんだろう、そうなのかな。これ多分どうなんだろう。
Does that make sense? Because like Tokyo is not at the very top.
なんだろう。都会に出ることも上京っていうのかな。それはちょっと微妙なんだけど、まあとりあえずね、田舎から東京に出て、なんかチャレンジしたり、あと、まあそうね、チャレンジすることを上京するっていうんだけど、まあ例えばね、高校卒業して、すぐに上京して、ミュージシャンになるために路上ライブをしたとか、まあそうやって、そういう感じが、まあね、あるっていうのが、まあ上京するっていう言葉なんだけど、まあ、そうね。まあニューヨークみたいな感じかな。ニューヨークに行って成功したいとかさ、あるじゃん、やっぱり。
Yeah. Like I said, so it doesn't matter where you live in Japan, you're always jokyoing, right? So if I'm in Hokkaido above Japan, are you still jokyoing going to Tokyo? Okay, so it's probably like referring to like a increase in something, whether it be people, prosperity. That's the big, what was it? The Big Apple, I believe in English.
Big Apple.
Okay, well that definitely just completely, what's the word, placates Tokyo's prideful attitude. Is everybody refers to going, it's almost like the heavens. You're ascending to Tokyo. Okay, I mentioned Kyoto, so maybe we should talk about Kyoto because the old capital. Yeah.
そうね。京都は京都府ですね。京都府なんだけど、京都弁でものすごい悪いことを言ってきそう。で、もう一つが上品そう。ね、なんか京都弁ってね、なんか、なんだっけ忘れちゃったけど、なんだっけなんとか、ダメだ、忘れちゃった。
Yade? Not yade? Are you talking about the
や
or
でと
what? Like
か、あと、なんだっ
moro,
け
the o instead of the instead of e, they use o like the long like end of sentences end up ending with like verb conjugations end with
え、
what is it?
何
Like morota or no
モロ
morota
タ、モロタとか、
morota. Yeah,
モ
morota.
ロタと
Yeah.
か、まあ、あと、大きにっていうのかな大きに。
Yeah, okini. What I
う
find
ん。
interesting is that there are a lot of dialects in Japan.
そうね。
But Kyoto is one of the only ones where it is mentioned in some other ones, but it's one of the only ones where specifically their accent was mentioned. I think maybe this has to do with Kyoto's prominence historically or some other reason, or the fact that Kyoto is seen as well as like the historical center of Japan.
まあ、
But
そうね。
for whatever reason, I wonder, yeah, like the Kansai accent is extremely well known.
で、なんか
Like the
中で
fact I
も、
know
その、
about it is something, right? Like I don't know anything about much any other accent really, other than some
あ
Okinawan and some like from Hokkaido.
ほら。まあ、
What were you saying?
関西でもさ、まあ、関西ってさ、まあ、地域のことだからさ、いろんな県とか、まあ、風がいろいろあるじゃん。で、関西弁を喋
Yeah.
ってんのが、必ず京都だけっていうわけじゃなくて、大阪だったり、まあ、兵庫とかね、奈良とかもそうかな、そこら辺とかね。なんだけど、
Yeah.
京都の関西弁ってすごいなんか柔らかいイメージがあるんだよ。柔らかくて、なんか、上品っていうかね、さっきも言ってたけど。だから、
It's funny. I associate Kyoto as a place that is all about having things be of high quality.
そう。
But and I'm not hating on Kansai Ben. Kansai Ben's cool now, but to me, and this is totally because I've also been Tokyo brainwashed. But I don't hear the accent and think it's an increase in class, if that makes any sense, or like an increase in being refined. To me, Kyoto Ben just sounds like, or sorry, Kansai Ben just sounds like Kansai Ben, and I don't necessarily think I'm not hating. I don't want to hate on any Kansai Ben. I studied abroad in the area, so not hating, but I definitely don't get the refined nature of, or at least how that's perceived for Kansai Ben.
まあそうね。だから、なんだろう。京都のすごい柔らかい関西弁、まあ京都弁で、なんかさ、もうなんかすごい悪口言われてもさ、それが柔らかかったらなんかさ、別に怒りはしないじゃん。だからさ、京都弁でさ、なんかさ、めちゃめちゃディスられてたらとしてもさ、気づかないっていうね。
Yeah. I think I don't entirely get where that sentiment's coming from, or although I understand it's kind of funny, because most of the meaning or just shifting in meaning is happening in the verb at the end, sort of, which I understand. But if I, as a foreigner, I think we've had this conversation before, basically follow Kansai Ben with a very cursory understanding of the grammar, like a very superficial understanding of the grammar, I feel like there's a block in people's head that's making them think they don't understand Kansai Ben, but I really don't think it's that much harder to understand than
いやまあでもね、
the standard
なんていう
dialect.
の語尾だけが違うんだったらまあわかるけど、さすがになんか言葉の全体が違かったらちょっと難しいかなっていうのはある。
Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think it's the majority of the language. Like I said, I stayed at a or host, what's it called? I was a host family or host son of a family that speaks Kansai Ben natively, or he lives in the area, and I heard them talking between each other too. And the most, if anybody got like angry or whatever, then it got more Kansai Ben-y, but I could still generally follow what they're saying. So I feel like there might be this wanting to pretend like it's completely unintelligible, or I don't know, maybe I was gifted that I can mostly understand Kansai Ben. I mean, granted, one of my friends was from there, so maybe there is that bias. But yeah, maybe Osaka. Osaka is also very big, and I feel like there's a triangle. So you go Tokyo is the place of like modern relevance, and you are educated if you are from there. People strive to go there. You have Kyoto is the root historically of Japan, and it gets cred points for that. And then that's like the highest in terms of class, in terms of perceived refinedness. And then there's the exact opposite where you combine lots of people and not being refined. And I feel like that's what Osaka it defines Osaka. So if you want to read Osaka's
大
description.
阪ね、大阪はまあたこ焼きばっかり食べてそう。アメちゃんくれそう。あと、おしゃべりな人多そう。まあこれはまあそのたこ焼き、まあ知らない人いるのかな。たこ焼きは大阪ですごい有名で、なんて言えばいいんだろうね、あれは。
There's no good translation. It's called like octopus balls.
そうだね。なんか要するに、
yeah.
たこ焼きの作り方としては、なんか球体のその型があるんだけど、その鉄板の中に
Yeah.
小麦のなんかなんて言えばいいの、小麦のを水で溶かしたやつで味付けしたやつかなを流し込んで、でまあまずその生地ができるじゃん。でその上に、オクトパスのタコの足をまあちょっとこんぐらいのちっちゃいやつなんだけど、それを入れて、でくるくるしながら回すとこういう形、まん丸、もう球体みたいになるね。スフィアになる。そうそう。でそれがまあたこ焼きでソースとかかける。
It's really
まあ
good.
たこ焼き。そうそうそうなんだけど、まあ大阪といえば粉物文化っつって、たこ焼きとかお好み焼きとかなんかそこら辺のものが有名で、まあそうだね、このイメージには合ってて、あとアメちゃんくれそうっていうの分かる？なんでアメちゃんくれそうか。
No, what is Ame-chan? I know
アメちゃん
Ame,
ね。
but
はいはい。まずアメちゃんっていうのは、アメっていうのは分かるでしょ？キャンディーズね。アメ。
yeah.
そう。で、アメちゃんっていうのが、その大阪のさ、おばちゃんたちっていうのはすごい、なんていうの、フォーワードって言えばいいのかな、おしゃべり好きっていうか、人の世話が好きみたいな感じなの。
Okay.
そうだか
Yeah.
ら、なんかいつでもバッグの中に飴を入れてるのね。
Okay.
でそれで
This
まあ
is
なん
actually
かあっ
very
た
funny.
そうそう、なんかあった時
I'll mention
に、
something later.
そう飴ちゃんどうぞみたいなっていうのがあって、そ
Yeah.
の飴ちゃん、飴のことね、キャンディーがまあそうもうおばちゃんが持ってる、そうそうそう。であとおしゃべりな人は多そうと。まあそうだね。なんか吉本っていうコメディアンのね、エージェンシーとかがまあこういうとこ大阪かな確かであるんだけど、やっぱりお笑いとか好きだし、あとみんなツッコミとかボケとかもそういうの普通の日常茶飯事でそういうことしてるっていうのは聞いたことあるから、まあね、お笑い好きだしおしゃべりな人もね多いっていうのはイメージがある。
I'm surprised it didn't mention anything about the comedy or whatever, because from my impression, one of the things that people always say is that Osaka they're the funniest people
そうだ
in
ね。なん
Japan.
かノリがいい。ノリがいいってなんて言うんだろう。
How do I explain that? They go with the joke, sort of. So like if
そうだ
somebody
ね。なん
if
かふざ
somebody
け合ってる。
says
そう
something
そう
that's
そう。
off, yeah, if
そ
somebody's
う
like
そうそう。
messing with you, and then instead of being like, hey, what's going on, they'll just kind of keep going on with what you're
そう
saying
そう
or
そうそう
extend
そ
it.
う。
So
あ、
if
そう
somebody
そうそ
says
う、
like
そんな感じ。そう。
like if
まあ
somebody
ノリ
walked
が
up
い
to
い
you
ね。
and said, why is there a raccoon on your feet or something, and then you'd be like, and then instead of pretending surprised, you'd be like, oh, I bought that at the takoyaki stand, and they'd be like, what?
そうそうそう、そんな感じだね。
But the thing I was going to point out with the Ame-chan that I find funny is there is a perception of somebody who gives out candy. I'm assuming presumably in this Ame-chan is to children, younger people in America, but that is from the male perspective, and it is not a positive thing. It is considered like that if an older guy is giving out candy to children, then he is a pedophile, basically. So
いや、
that
これは
it
ポ
is
ジティブだよ。
considered.
ポジティブ。そうそう。な
Yeah,
んか世話
I'm
好
saying
き
in
な感じ
America
だと思うよ。
that's like when I hear an
間違
older
ってた
person
ら
giving
ご
out
めんね。
candy, yeah, that is that carries a bunch of negative connotations. That's kind of funny though.
なんかさ、
Yeah.
一個さ、すごい面白いのがあったからさ、行きたいんだけど、沖縄県のがあって、ちょっと沖縄県の行きますね。
Yeah.
5個ぐらいあるんだけど、一つ目、陽キャが多そ 陽キャっていうのは、陽キャってなんて言うんだろう。まあ、明るい
this is
人
you're high spirits, right?
そうだね。
As in you're positive
イエーイ
person,
みたいな。
optimistic.
そうそう、オプティミスティック。そうそうそうそう。陽キャっていう。陽キャの反対は陰キャね。ちなみに。
Yeah.
そう。で、次が
Dejected.
語尾にさをつけそう。なんとかさ、みたいな。イエスさ、わかんないけど。
I don't understand why that's the thing. I hear at least a lot of my friends from Kansai, なんとかさ、さ、
あ、そのさじゃない
That's
と
the
思う。
only thing.
別のタイプのさ。
の
だと思
さ。
うなんとかさね。さ。そうそうそう。でも別のタイプ。で、次、雪見たことなさそう。まあ確かに。ね、沖縄は一番、なんて言うんだろう。あったかいところ、下の方にあるから、まあ雪見たことなさそう。で、次がいろいろぶっ飛んでそう。まあ確かにね。で、最後のが面白いんだけど、Wi-Fi のことを Wi-Fi って言ってそうってね、これ絶対違うだろうって思ったんだけど。
So that's what I'm wondering. So from this perspective, which I find interesting, are people from Okinawa on one hand so they're both the people who live in the hot climate that people want to travel to, but simultaneously they are also like very like perceived as the equivalent of a country bumpkin who doesn't know anything about technology. Like why do you think people believe they pronounce Wi-Fi Wi-Fi?
多分ね、ここのジョークは、なんか、沖縄弁もなんかなんて言うんだろう、要素に入ってると思うんだよ。なんか沖縄弁ってこんなイメージはある。なんか、なんか Wi-Fi みたいな。言葉で難しいけど、なんか、沖縄弁は絶対理解できないと思うよ。すごい全然違うから。
Well,
で、
Okinawan, there's a straight up a different language, right? So Okinawan.
そうだね。多
and
分
then
そうだ
so
ね。そうそうそう。
well, yeah. So I mean, I told you there was a barber I went to who was recently who was
うんうんう
from
ん。
Okinawa, and although the person now has lived in the US for so long that they don't use it, and I guess they almost lost their native language, which is interesting. It was completely different than Japanese. Like it's not that it was a dialect of Japanese, it just seemed like an entirely different language. So that's why I'm interested to know about the dialect, which is interesting because I'm assuming that's evolved because of the influence of the actual language. What is the thing? The only phrase I know, nankurunaisa.
ナンクルナイスは有名だね。なんだっけ、なんとかなるさみたいな感じだよね。大丈夫だよみたいな。
It's what is that? Oh gosh, the Disney movie.
ディズニー。
Lion King.
ライオンキング。
Hakuna Matata. Hakuna
ハ
Matata.
クマ
Whatever.
タタ、なんだっけ。忘れてた。
The no worries. It means no worries for the rest of your days.
じゃあそれが
That's kind of like
ナンクルナイサだね。
nankurenaisa. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, that's funny. Obviously, I don't think it's completely related at all, but yeah, I guess they're the Hawaii of Japan.
そうだね。もうまさにそう。もうハワイって感じだね。そうそう。
But it's funny because Hawaii is also the Hawaii of Japan in the sense that there's a lot of Japanese people in Hawaii.
まあね。すごい。確かさ、なんかかなりの割合、半分とかじゃなかった？日本人。そんな
I
に
can't remember. There's a lot
結構
though.
いるよね。
Obviously,
そう
there's
そうそう。
native Hawaiian population as well, but there's definitely. I always feel like Japanese people treat Hawaii as they want to go to a different country but they don't really. Not saying Hawaii isn't different from Japan. It is, but I'm just saying it is. You could choose anywhere in the world, and you happen to want to go to the place with a bunch of other Japanese people. There are not many places with Japanese people, and so I always find it interesting.
でも結
where
構
they
芸
choose to
能
travel.
人の人、セレブリティーズは結構ね、なんかね、ハワイに旅行するよ。で、ハワイに別荘を持ってたりとかね、セカンドハウスが、そうそう、あったりするから。ね、まあ、
Every time I hear that, I just hear disrespect Okinawa. You know what I'm saying? You could do like you have all the same things basically. I feel
まあ
like
ね、まあ、
you're just slightly further away than. Okay. Were there any other? So something I wanted to mention about these different prefectures and their identity is there was I don't know if I'd be called a full trend, but at least on 2 instances, there have been prominent anime that it seems like one of their biggest goals is to increase the relevancy of their prefecture. I believe one time I talked about this on the podcast before, but for Gunma-ken, there was an anime which is like, what was the name? You Don't Know About Gunma or something like that. And then there was also another anime that it was about, it's called Zombieland Saga, as in Saga Prefecture, which is actually pretty big. And there's a huge part, especially in the second season of the show, about giving historical background on Saga, making people actually know about Saga. People should, and obviously there's there's a show about camping that I think also is called Yurikyan. I haven't seen it, but I recall the actual location being relevant there as well. Or how people in Kimi no Nawa know that what was the prefecture for Kimi no Nawa? I'm blanking.
君の名はね、あれ、岐阜県かな?
Yeah, Gifuken. Yeah. And so this whole thing about, it seems to me, making it very clear where the anime is located in, and or especially in the Gunma anime. The Gunma's anime case is literally something like, basically like, you don't know anything about Gunma, this anime is going to help you learn about Gunma. And so like in terms of identity, and there's other things that also surround the identity of the prefectures, like I'm not sure if we mentioned this, but was it the Yurukera? Do you want to explain what Yurukera?
くまモンね。
Yeah.
熊本のさ、そのコメントのやつがさ、くまモンが経済回してそうだって。確かに。
Yeah. That's it's fair, guy, because he's super fit. I mean, do you want to explain what a Yurukera is first?
ゆるキャ
I don't
ラ
know
っ
if
てい
we've
うの
explained it
は、
before.
なんかね、多分それぞれの県とか、もう市とか町でもあるんだけど、ゆるいキャラクターっつって、なんていうの、ほんわか可愛い感じの、キャラクターをそれぞれ持ってるんだけど、それのくまモンっていうのがめちゃめちゃ有名で、黒いクマでなんか赤いほっぺたのやつなんだけど、それ何年かな ?2000 何年かになんかグランプリ取ったんかな。そう。
I'm wondering how that even started. That's a whole separate conversation, but it's not only the prefecture level that they have these yurukeras. It is also on the city level as well. So individual states, it's kind of like in the American listeners, for Americans, all of our states have like a state flower or a state crop or produce or something like that. They have like state anime characters basically.
So, まあアニメなのかな? なんていうの?
they're all cartoon characters. So in Japanese, you would definitely say in that sense, you would say anime. And to, yeah, go ahead.
そう、なんか可愛さグランプリみたいな、なんか決めるランキングみたいなやつあったりして、でそれでなんかくまモンが1位取ったことあって、それ1位何回か取ってんのかな？ちょっとよくわかんないから申し訳ないけど。
I wonder how that's evaluated.
投票じゃない。人がその投票して、これが一番可愛い。
Oh, just like that. Okay. That's about being cute. Something that I also want to mention is something you told me where, so I mentioned, so city and state level, they have their own yurukera, and they put it like everywhere. So you go into, not restaurants, sorry, but supermarkets and stuff, you'll see it on boxes. You were mentioning to me earlier that your city's character was put on your milk, like the milk boxes that you had at your school.
そうだね、そうだね。なんか、例えばそういうことをすることでさ、なんて言うんだろう。自分の県を応援しようとか、なんかそんな感じでキャンペーンとかね。あと、その自分の県の人に、このキャラクターがね、マスコットキャラクターだよっていうのを、知らせるのっていう目的もあるんじゃない?
Yeah, I've always thought in my head that it'd be very funny because to me, obviously it's not a big deal, but there's like at least some percentage of this that is developing instead of a national pride, it's developing a city level or state level pride, not nationalism, but I'd find it funny if Japan went into like a Cold War and you had a battle between Kuma, like the Kumamoto, you know what I'm saying? And on their flag, their war flags, you have their yurukera, and I like imagining a battle between different prefectures. That has to be an anime. Oh my gosh, if that anime doesn't exist, like, you know what I'm saying, I could totally see that, where the person leading every prefecture is a yurukera, and he's like the commander. If that doesn't exist, then oh my, I just can't. I need to pitch it to someone. That seems
戦いとかあるよ、多分。
No, but like I want to see one where it's what was the word for it? Like it has the gap, the like gap between they're very acute, but then the actual anime is very serious, like very high budget and like very gory. I want to see something like that. Like yeah.
作ってほしい。
But anyways, yeah. So they're all 47. We didn't go through all of them, but hopefully this gives you an idea of how some of the prefectures are perceived, as well as like how identity plays a role in like the prefectures in Japan. 戻りました。
We are back.
YouTube を見てる人は、私は日本にいないってことに気づいたでしょう。アメリカに戻った。イェイ。
No.
まあ、いいことか悪いことか、まあ、それは別の話で、一応戻った。
So how do you feel?
まあ、その最後のセクションで、今の時点でコメントないから、そのこともっと詳しく話すんだけど、今で話したいのは、そのやりたいことができたということに関して。
Okay, whether you
ということは、
did your,
まあ、
ね、
これは、
thing.
その日本に行ったとき、まあ2回ぐらい、2回目。まあ
あ、
1回は留学してたとき、4ヶ月半ぐらい。今回は3ヶ月間ぐらい日本にいた。ということで、その最初に行ったときに、まだやってないことがあった。でもそのまだやってないことはほぼ今と同じ。今回、まだやってないことはまだやってない。ということは、まずはその露天風呂温泉に行きたかったこと。
露天風呂って、how do you say in English?
An outdoor hot spring.
Outdoor hot, yeah, そうね、露天風呂ね、そう。
でも今、ね、もちろんお金かかるし、まあ、後の私がやってる動画に出てくるけど、結構田舎の方に行かないとできないと思
う。まあそうね。いや、まあ、I was speaking Japanese. But but it's kind of hard to find hot springs, まあ温泉ね、in Tokyo だね。probably.
じゃあ。で、まあ次は、これはめっちゃ簡単なやつだけどできなかった。というのが、映画館でアニメを見たかった。一応映画館に1回ぐらい行ったことは行ったんだけど、私が日本に行った時の、見たかったやつ、スラムダンクの新しい映画と、鏡の工場のアニメ化があったみたい。私がそのオーディオブックに関する動画を見た人なら、鏡の工場という聞き覚えがあるかもしれないけど、実際は私が日本にいた時に、そのアニメ化がその映画館にあったらしい。でも実はポスター持ってるけど、そう、行けなかった。
Yeah, you were so excited for the movie, but we didn't, get to watch
まあそれと、何でしたっけ他の、すずめの戸締まり。
right.
結構有名の、君の名はの監督、今お名前も出せないけど、何でしたっけ
君の名は、It's not 新海誠, right?
そう、誠新海。そう、新海。そう。でもその映画も見てないし、で、最後は、何でしたっけコメディ系、かぐや様を心らせたいの新しい映画、最終版があったと思うので、まあ、それは残念なこと。
But you can always watch them online.
オンラインは全然違うんだよ。そう、雰囲気的に。そう。ちなみに、あいみがなんか私がやってほしかったけどできなかったことあった？
I don't know, like,落語
落語
Yeah, 落語 But like, for
me...
Oh,
落語 Yeah, like sit down
for me,
storytelling.
So, sit down comedy. But like, for me, it's not interesting. Yeah, to me. So like, it's basically spoken in old Japanese, kind of. So like,
古語。
I always... yeah, I always don't understand the kind of Japanese, and I don't think rakugo is funny or fun. So yeah, me personally,
う
yeah,
ん。
I'd rather watch movies. So, but yeah, for
うん。
like
この、
foreigners,
どうぞ。
to experience Japanese culture is probably good. Yeah.
うん。この話戻る前にしたんだけど、ほと
うん。
んどの伝統的な日本の文化は古語で楽しまないといけない。
Yeah, yeah, right.
でもなんか現代的な話になるとほとんどの、若い人、あいみぐらいの人は、多分30誰が読めると思う理解できるその話が
Yeah, I wonder,
落語とか
ね、
宝塚とか
宝塚 or 歌舞伎 or no. Yeah. So
そうそう
those,
know
yeah,
そ
those kind of stuff only, like mainly older people go to see them.
う older
So,
はこの話したと思うんだけど older は
うん、
どの意味を持ってると思うなんか自分が older を言うと
older は
年
like
齢、
more than 50 or 60 years old.
50 or 60? そう40歳の人だと理解できないってこと
Probably, I don't know, it depends, but like, yeah, but to me, older people, yeah, watch that kind of Japanese traditional stuff. And I wonder how they learn those, to
そう
understand
私も
those
思っ
kind of
た
contents. Yeah.
多分わからないけどその落語とかだったら、幼い時から落語を楽しんでたから、その言い方っていうか、それぞれの物語がわかるというのもあるかな。なんか家族と一緒に落語を見に行くということもあるかな。例えば宝塚の場合に関しては、関西に、京都に住んでたホストファミリーが、みんな一緒で宝塚とかを見に行った時が何回もあったと思う。それ幼い時からそれをずっとやっていたらちょっとだけわかるんじゃない？
But to experience that, so those kind of
お
hobbies
金持ちってこ
are
と？
so yeah. They need money, so you have to be rich. Like, yeah, your
アメリカで
family
は
should
そういう
be
もの
really
あるかな？
rich. Golf
もちろん
とか
自分のブロードウェイあるけどみんな理解できる。みんなのなんか理解してほしいやつ。アメリカはなんか何でしたっけ？資産主義なんとかカピタリズム
資本主義 right?
そう、資本主義だからみんな理解できないとお金も儲からないのでそれが結
What about
構大事。
Shakespeare kind of like stages?
シェイクスピアプレイそうでも普通の人でも普通の人というか学校にいたことある人高校でもほぼ
all
なんか
people
話か
understand.
old people 実は old people の方が分かりにくいと思う。
all, like everyone.
all people そう、
Yeah.
大学に行ったから多分自分の偏見持ってるかもしれないけど田舎の方に住んでる人は多分理解しにくいかな。でも普通の一般人、一般ピープルでしたっけが、
一般ピープル、yeah.
そう、ほぼ話、80% 以上わかると思う。少なくとも言葉がわかる。ほとんど意味がわからなくても言葉がわかる。でも日本の場合だとこの言葉すらは理解できないでしょ？言い方とか。
So, instead of they, you say thy? What is it?
これは歴史、その文章による問題。そのシェイクスピアの話だと。
So, I wanted you to experience Japanese the traditional stuff. And also, I wanted you to experience museums.
そう。その日本の伝統的なミュージアム、美術館、博物館。私がそのアニメの博物館に、美術館かな に行ったことはあるけど、まあそれめっちゃ好きだけど、今回にも行きたかったんだけどできなくて、でもその本当になんか東京か京都のなんなんて言えばいいの、その国の文化、歴史、戦争のミュージアムに行きたかった。まあ美術館に行きたかった。
But yeah, instead, you went to anime-related places like Akihabara or
そうそうそう。そう、後悔持って
or
ないよ。それ全然。
what?
それ後悔してない。全然後悔し
Oh,
て
you
ない、
didn't
そういうこ
regret.
と。そうそう。
Yeah, yeah,
まあ、も
Akihabara
ちろん
is
行きたか
a
った
cool
けど、
place. Yeah.
いろんなことができた。それで、
うん
後悔してるというわけじゃない。
Yeah, that's good.
まあ、今回は、まあ、次の時、
Yeah, next time. Yeah.
温泉、映画館、コンサートでも行きたかったんだけど、絶対行く。今決めた。And we're back with the final section.
という
And
と
if you made it to the final section, that means you should leave a comment, question, email, whatever, at lazyfluency@gmail.com or YouTube, wherever you prefer, or drop a review on Apple Podcasts. This week, we don't have a comment, question, and or otherwise, so I'm going to talk about me being back in Japan and the reverse culture shock I've experienced. I mean, do you know what reverse culture shock is?
なんだ、reverse culture shock ということは、なんか逆にカルチャーショックになったこと？
Yeah.
単純？
So normally culture shocks when you go to a country that is not it's not technically it's like the country that you've lived the most time in, identify with, go a country that's not in that country, and then you experience a shock from the culture being very different. Reverse culture shock is when you experience that from what you see as your place of origin or your I guess what you ever identify as your culture, being shocked by your own culture because of going to another country and experiencing theirs. And so I've actually been experiencing that quite a lot, and so I have a section that I titled for notes here on my first reactions, as in when entering Japan, stuff I immediately noticed or stuff I didn't realize about my behavior that had changed. So the first one is walking on the left side of things, whether it be sidewalks or roads, or I didn't almost get hit by a car, but I was close to being almost, you know what I'm saying, in that situation where like I would make the intent to walk on the left side of the road and then realize that a car is coming and be like, wait, what am I doing? And I had to self-correct multiple times.
あれ？ちょっと待って。日本が左か。
Yeah. In America, the right of way,
右。
like going forward is the right. Right.
ああ、な
And
る
so
ほどね。
like, you know what I'm saying, inside stores, when I was in the airport, I had multiple instances where I was kind of getting mildly annoyed, just like very mild. And I'm like, why are you guys, you're going the wrong, why are you walking towards me? And I was like, wait a second, I'm being an idiot. We go on the right side. And I had to readjust.
確かにね、慣れちゃうとね、逆になっちゃうよね。ああ、面白いね、確かに。はいはい。
And that, something I think is if you live in Japan for long enough, I think you have to re-get your license or something. I can't remember, but I'm pretty sure you have to re-get your like American license, driver's license. Maybe I'm wrong there, because of that reason.
国際免許っていうのあるけど、あれどうやって取ってんのかわかんないんだよね。国際免許。
Yeah. Oh, I'm just saying. Let's say hypothetically that. Yeah, that's a good question. If you get one, I don't know how they work together, but I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about. So, the other one is pretty straightforward, but I didn't realize how. Maybe this is a good thing. Maybe this is a bad thing. But my brain is having difficulty distinguishing English from Japanese. And I keep using Japanese to people who don't speak Japanese. And I don't mean like I was saying like nani to my mom.
P.S.
Like,
Joey's mom doesn't know
speak Japanese. Yeah, no, at all. And there were some other phrases I was using. Even some of my friends, I'm like, what am I doing? My brain would just respond, and I was like, I know it sounds cringy. I'm telling you, I'm not somebody who goes around speaking Japanese to my friends. It caught me off guard, and I was like, where did that come from?
まあでもいいんじゃない？なんかね、私も物を落とすときとかも、なんかまず出てくるのがシェッだもん。もうなんかやっちゃったときに、そう出てくるから。 まあそれだけ慣れてきたってことじゃない。
Well,
ね、
that's like
take
an
it as a
expression.
positive
You know what I'm
stuff.
saying?
うん。
And my so those are like that's an expression. You're just like shit. What if I was saying like oh sorry exclamations. If I was saying an exclamation like that in Japanese, maybe that'd be fine. But I'm like asking some when I'm saying like nani or something, I'm directly giving them feedback to respond to, but they just don't understand what I'm saying.
あ、待って、私も確かね、友達に、確かなんか聞き返すときに、What? って言っちゃって、全然日本語
Yeah.
そうそうそう、What? みたいな。あ、今ちょっと違えわと思ったけど、そうそう。
It's worse though for Americans. There's 0% Japanese understanding. In Japan, there's some percentage of English understanding. So literally, they don't even know what I'm saying. I'm wondering if they've noticed because I immediately correct. But I was surprised. The next one I've written down here, which is something that you'll hear me complain about a lot, but I truly felt the pain. So I landed in LAX, and the first thing I noticed is I got redirected to another terminal, and I had to walk around outside. And I was like, okay, there's going to be a really nice path that I can walk in, meant for people, because, you know, this is an airport. It is meant for people to travel from terminal to terminal. So I should be able to find a nice little paved path for me to go from one terminal to the other. No, I had to walk basically in the street with a bunch of an infinite line of traffic. And I know it's an airport, but the amount of anger, I was like, why am I back in goddamn?
あ、でもさ、
I
空
hate
港の周り
cars.
はそうだよ。空港の周りはだってみんな、車で来てさ、なんかパークしてからさ、旅行行ったりするじゃん。だからさ、
Yeah.
まあ、make sense じゃない？
It wasn't just that. It was the entire area. It was when I went to the other locations, the connecting flights. It just the constant, just the cars everywhere. Just my blood pressure rose so much. I hate my hatred every day of cars increases. Like if there's like a car murderer, if there's like history of everybody's cars suddenly stop working and they getting like they find them in the rivers and stuff. I'm not saying it was me, but I would say I would empathize with that person. I wouldn't be trying to kill people, but I put car bombs just to blow up the cars themselves. You know what I'm saying? They drive me insane. And this one is a small one. And I think I might have already had this influence, but so I mean maybe this is interesting. I noticed in person. I think I gesture a lot more. I just became aware of it, so now my gesturing turned on. But like when I'm in my room, I don't. But when I'm in public, I normally also tend to, like around people and socially, I gesture a lot more. And it's actually interesting that I noticed that. I haven't been gesturing the whole podcast. I wonder if that has to do because that's interesting. I think subconsciously, if I don't think somebody else in the space or wasn't actively thinking about it, I don't gesture as much. Which is obvious because gesturing maybe is a social thing. But when I as an American, or maybe for whatever reason, I tend to take up, I guess you could say, more space. But I noticed in the airport, I was also wearing a mask. I forgot. I forgot the fact that everything is not masked. It's not a mask situation.
アメリカって今マスクをしないのがほとんどじゃん。
No, it's not even ほとんど. It's like just dead. There's just
で、
no
全員として
mask.
さ、で、自分一人だけがマスクしてた時って他の人たちは自分のことどう思うの？
That's what I realized. I realized I was wearing. I mean, they still aware of it. I was wearing that. I was like, what am I doing? I'm like, oh no, I'm sending out the wrong signals. They're gonna think I'm trying to make a hard statement, and I was so used to like people. To be clear, people in rural Japan, outside in the middle of like a forest, would wear masks. So they are still wearing masks. Like it's really crazy.
びっくりだよ。だって、なんか面白いのが、わしの大学なんか、来年からやっとインパーション、対面での授業が始まるらしいの。なんか他の大学は、なんか去年からあったっぽいんだけど、来年っていうか、まあ4月からね、April から、対面の授業始まるっていうから、まあ遅いよね。あと、まあこれはしょうがないんだけど、病院でまあ、実習があるから、やっぱりマスクはしないといけない。病院の人は全員してるね。患者さんもしてるし、医者もしてるし、看護師もしてるしっていう。そうね。まあ、
What I find interesting is that I think we brought this up one time is so Japan went from you don't we don't even like, how would I say? Japan can't actually enforce a mandate for many reasons. Historically, shout out to the US, it has to do with that. But they can give a general suggestion. Like basically, they had a we strongly encourage everyone to wear masks, and that dropped from, hey, we don't whatever, and now it's we are encouraging. They gave a statement that basically saying, we do not recommend, like I repeat, we do not recommend a mask in any situation. Please stop. Basically, and it came out.
ね、来年そうなるのかな。
Yeah, but people are still doing it. It's so fun. I think we had a whole
そう、だっ
episode
て
where we
電
talked
車
about
乗
it.
るとさ、逆にしてないと本当に睨まれる感じだもん。も
Yeah.
う、そう、ね、困ったもんよ。
Yeah, and so just to go to some other ones, I didn't realize how many small things I had, but okay, if I had to be sad about, okay, I'm going to mention this one real first. Yeah, everything is really big. My room, I've never experienced such a strange, I don't know, it was the weirdest feeling I've ever experienced in my life. I'm like straight up. So when I went to Japan, I had, for the second time, the first time, I think it's maybe because I was in a more wealthier house or something. I didn't really think it was that weird, but the place that I was staying at was like extremely small from like my standard, and my head just couldn't imagine you could live there. But by the time like I was like left, I was like, oh, probably 3 or 4 people could live here. I came back to even just this room that you can see here, and I didn't feel like it was my room. It seemed way too large, just way too large. I was everything was way too large. And I don't mean like, and I actually mean in a negative. I was like almost intimidated by the amount of space. I didn't know what to do with it. And I don't know how to describe that. A room that you've lived in for a long time, you walk in and you don't feel like it's your room. But it was kind of scary, honestly. I was like, what the hell? I was like,
まあね、なんか
it was
小さ
surreal,
いのをね、経験してからさ、やっぱり大きいの経験すると、それはね、相対的にでかく感じるからね。あと、あれは
Yeah, it was super interesting. It made me think of like, I guess when you probably move away from your house and come back. But for me, it wasn't about that. All the stuff, I'm like, everything looks right. You know what it is? Sometimes there's like an episode in anime or other series where you find your clone, and you have two people. You have one imposter, and then you have like yourself, your real you, and you're trying to convince somebody else who's the real one. And I felt like my room, there was my room that as I remembered it, and then there was my current room that I'm in, and I'm like, this is an imposter room. This is not my actual room. My actual room is somewhere else.
なるほどね。あれはなんかさ、よくさ、食べ物が大きいとかさ、なんかすべてのサイズが大きいじゃん、アメリカだと。それはやっぱりどうなの？やっぱ大きいって感じた？ミルクがガロンとかだったりさ。
Oh no. Oh that Oh, you know what? Actually, I have yet to open I opened the fridge once. I don't think I actually looked at the milk. We'll see. I haven't used a cup. That's a very good point. I probably will experience that like very
スーパー
shortly.
行った方がいいよ。スーパーでどれだけ日
Oh
本の
my
ものが
god, you're right.
小
Yeah,
さい
no, I'm gonna be overwhelmed.
そうそうそう。
I don't think I can take it. I don't think I'll even be able to take it. I
も
got.
うね、
Oh,
嬉し
so
く
if
て
I
笑
had
っちゃうかもね。
yeah, if I had one complaint, and now I'm looking through this list, something that, so I mentioned that I missed cheese and meat and other stuff in Japan, which is true. And I'm going to be clear that I definitely did miss those things. But if there's something that I didn't realize I missed more than anything I've ever missed before, it is bidets, as in the toilets that shoot water up your butt. I'm not going to, this is
多分
TMI.
ね、ジョ
Oh,
ジ
go
ョ
ahead.
はね、なんて言うんだろう。なんだろう。日本のトイレ違うわ。普通の人よりも尋常じゃないんだよ、多分。普通の人と比べて尋常じゃないから、ビデが必要なんだよ。
Yeah, I'll just keep it. I'll keep it to a PG. But what I will say is that the amount of time I saved and pain and toilet paper I saved from Japan
どんなこ
bidets
とし
and
たら
me
そん
like
なんなる
I'm just saying I save a lot of time and mental stress. Like I don't like going to the bathroom in America. It's just like, especially like number 2. It's like takes up so much time, and oh my god, and then it's just I miss the bidet so much. I want it back. I want it back so much. I want it back more than anything I've ever wanted back.
ビデオさ、アメリカで売ったらさ、ジューみたいにさ、めちゃめちゃ助かる人がいるかもね。
Yeah, no, they actually are in California. They
so-
sell bidets, and I believe that I believe they've caught on a little bit. And holy cow, why? I want bidets so bad. I don't.
本
I
気顔
feel
並みなの、それは。
yeah, it is really really bad. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I feel lost. I need a bidet. Yeah, it's
なるへそ。
very very desperate. Oh, the last thing I'll mention is something that I actually appreciated about America when I first came in. So normally I have really bad experiences with immigration, and this might be to race relations, whatever. Every time I get asked, I basically get treated, or sometimes I've literally been segmented into like lines that are intended for non-American citizens, even though I hold a passport and demonstrate that I have a passport. This time, the immigration officer that I went to looked like he was Hispanic partially. And this might be just because Hispanics always are bros with each other, generally speaking, to some degree, even if they, unless they're in a place that isn't America, in which case they hate each other if they're not from the same place. But when I went, the first thing I heard was not some demanding thing like, where are you here? What are you doing? Where'd you come? Are you doing this, that? Yeah. And it wasn't the formal Japanese like no emotion, whatever, and then ending with mata gosu kudasaimasu. It was a literally, what's up, bro? And I was like, oh, not much. And he's like, what did he even say? He's like, where you been? I was like, I just came from Japan. And he's like, oh, that's sick or something. And then he like asked me my name, whatever. And he's like, yeah, you're good to go. And he's like, have a good day. I'm like, yeah, sweet. And I was like, that was nice. That was like the best experience I've ever had at immigration. And then that was the whole thing. That was it. It just went like that, and boom, I was in the country. Didn't even have to go. Yeah, I was so surprised. I'm surprised I didn't have to go to customs or anything, or maybe I did something wrong, but I didn't have to make a declaration sheet or anything. Yeah, it was. I don't know why I didn't have to make a declaration sheet about stuff I brought into the country. Maybe I shouldn't be admitting this. I don't know if I did something wrong, but I just went in.
はあ、確かになんかね、ルールはルールって感じだからね、日本だとそんな器用にならない。
Yeah, so
顔が無表情みたいなね。
For those who go to Japan for an extended period of time, I would expect to experience some level of reverse culture shock. I'm sure that I will continue to experience some other ones. But yeah, I'm hoping it's technically not the new year, but this is our new second year of the podcast. So this is our first episode of that. So yeah, hope that we have many listeners who will continue supporting us. Yeah. And send an email, please, somebody.
そうね。日本人から少ないね。まあ、いつもの VIP の方々からね、もらえるのはね、嬉しいけどね。もっといろんな人からね、いろんな質問来るとね、もっと嬉しいかな。うん。
Yeah. That bell means we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us on the lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and are just looking for general advice, send in an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com, please, and we might respond in the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
And Ayami.
Signing off. じゃあねー。
じゃあねー。送ってね。